and welcome to Council Catch-Up. I'm Derek Westby, your host here on WSTO TV. WSTO TV, again, is on TDS Channel 12, Spectrum Channel 981, and also on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Fire TV, as well as Android and iOS on your mobile devices. And we're here to talk about the April 11th, 2023 City Council meeting with the Planning Commission for a little while. And I'm here with Mayor Tim Swadley. Welcome.
Hello.
So we had a bunch of call to orders and roll calls because of the two committees meeting at the same time. And then we went on to communications.
Yeah, so during the communications, Police Chief Jenks and some officers came in to give honor to the two fallen officers up in the northern area, including a former Stoughton officer, Emily Breitenbach. We'll be sending a large contingent up there for the funeral services after the tragic shooting of the two officers while they were on duty. And then there was a few other communications that we had about National Telecommunications Week, which is our police dispatchers, and National Volunteer Week, which we have a celebration at the fire station Friday at 1 o'clock, and then also Dark Sky Week. And then that led us right into the presentations. And we had planned on having a presentation from Quick Trip regarding their conditional use permit application over on the east side of Stoughton. And late in the afternoon, we did get communication from Quick Trip that they were withdrawing their application. So there were several items that were related to that, including a public hearing, and that was the reason for the joint meeting. Under a conditional use permit, we have a public hearing to get testimony, and the council and the planning commission hear that testimony, and ultimately the council would make a quasi-judicial decision. And there was a number of people in the community that chose to speak, even though the project has been canceled. Probably over 20 people spoke on various aspects of the project and what they would like to see the city of Stoughton do in the future as we continue to plan for our growth.
And all of that testimony can be seen on the council meeting on demand on our channel, as well as replaying. So then after all of the Quick Trip stuff, we move on to the consent agenda, where that's just typical stuff that gets passed. And then we were on to old business item number 15, plan development, general development plan for Stoughton Hospital at 900 Ridge Street.
Yeah, so we had a number of items that were ordinances. When we do ordinances, we do a first reading to introduce it at one meeting, and at the second meeting, we do a second reading, and that's typically when we would vote on it. Although there was one example last night where they waived the first reading and took action on it, and we'll talk about that later. The first one, Stoughton Hospital is planning their expansion, and they'd like to get started later on in the year. And they're just working on their general development plan, which needs Plan Commission and City Council approval. And then, which they did receive last night. And then the next step would be a site plan, which is approval necessary by the Plan Commission only.
All right. And then item 16 was another ordinance for a second reading, repealing and recreating section 10-122 through 10-135 of the municipal code relating to erosion control and stormwater management.
Yeah, I think I mentioned at the last council catch-up, this one here was just to align our ordinances with the county ordinances as well, to make sure that we have consistent language.
All right, and then number 17 was ordinance 7, again, another second reading for pond aesthetics.
Yeah, so in these residential developments, we've talked about trying to make them the ponds look more natural. So we had worked with our committee as well as some engineers to come up with some language that would give clear direction to the developers and their engineers as they develop these stormwater ponds.
All right, and then 18 was another ordinance 8 of 2023, repealing section 74-5 relating to the operations superintendent of utilities.
Yeah, so we had kind of an antiquated ordinance that basically said that this position would have to be appointed. And as we went through the strategic realignment in Stoughton Utilities, we discovered that. And then due to a retiree, we have to fill that position. And we just felt like any other hiring practice that we would just hire that position. It wouldn't necessarily be an appointment. appointment are typically occurs for like committee members and the clerk as well is considered an appointment, even though we hire. There's still a process to go through. So this position here, we just didn't feel a need for that.
All right. Number 19 was Ordinance 9 of 2023, a second reading relating to curbside bulk on-call program.
Yeah, so once a month, residents of Stoughton can have large items that won't fit in their garbage containers picked up by John's Disposal. And we've noticed that there's been some situations where the amount of garbage that has been left out on the curb has been a little excessive, and it really puts John's behind in their collection services. They get to the rest of the residents in the city. They typically err to pick up the garbage, but what we'd like to do is if people have that much materials they need to get rid of, to either rent a dumpster or to put it out incrementally on a monthly basis and not dump it all on the curb at once.
All right. Then item number 20 was Resolution 51, North Street and Bickley Court reconstruction projects.
So on this one here, we bid out these two projects together. The utilities portions of the bids came out extremely high, and to the point where we basically voted to reject the bid. And we're going to do North Street another year, and we're going to attempt to rebid the Bickley Court project yet this year. We think one of the reasons the bid came in high is because it's not a large stretch of project to do, and the timing, especially on North Street, would have to start after the school year ends and be completed before the school begins, which really for some contractors isn't really desirable. So we'll try again next year, and hopefully we'll receive a better bid on that part of the project.
All right. Item number 21, Resolution 53 of 2023, adopting tax incremental financing application form.
Yeah, so our tax incremental financing form, or TIF, is something that developers would fill out if they need assistance in order to make a project happen. Usually it occurs on a mixed use or a commercial development. And we wanted to add some language in there that would encourage the developers to do some more sustainable practices while they're doing their project. We can't require them to do that under our normal building codes because those are regulated by the state of Wisconsin. But when we're using public money as assistance to the project, we have a little bit more authority to ask them to include that into their project.
All right, now we're on to new business. We had Resolution 58, extending the urban service area to include 127.5 acres on the far east side of the city between Highway A and 51.
So this is an extension of the Stonecrest development. So if you were to go down Racetrack Road and then go back on some of the side streets, a lot of them dead end, there's barricades back there. And this plan would be to extend them streets that kind of run toward and parallel to Highway A, and then eventually heading up toward Highway 51 where the Stoughton Airport is. That whole area there is included in the 127.5 acres. And the urban service area amendment is the stormwater management plan. And on these projects, we like them to do a design for the entire plan to make sure when we get to the end of the project, as these things are developed in phases, that everything will work properly. So the application is submitted by the city on behalf of the developer to the Capital Regional Area Planning Commission. And we feel that this project here will help develop the east side.
All right. Item number 23, Resolution 59, to combine properties at 1000 and 1008 Nordland Drive.
So we have a corner lot out at Nordic Ridge at Nordland Drive and Markins Gate. And there's a potential buyer that wants to purchase both lots and put one big house on the two lots. And when those lots were platted out and utilities were put in, there was two sets of water and wastewater pipes in the ground. And normally, if we're only going to have one house there, we would really only want to have one set of pipes, in the house. But the road out there is new, so the dilemma was, well, we don't like to have just water and wastewater lines underground sitting there for no reason because they could potentially leak, and we'd have to dig up the road later versus digging up the road now, which we know lessens the lifespan of the road and makes it less desirable to drive on. So we were able to work out a resolution where the homeowner that's going to build is going to use a second set of water and lines basically for their lawn sprinkling system. So we feel like that's a pretty good solution to this situation, kind of unique.
That is unique. And then item number 24 was a first reading for STI Holdings Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
So STI Holdings is Stoughton Trailers Incorporated, and you might recall they purchased the land out on Highway B and 51, and their plan is to develop that land. So what we need to do is update our comprehensive plan so it's consistent with what they want to do there. The current comprehensive plan was designed kind of exclusively for the development at the time, which included the Walmart Supercenter, which eventually was built out at Kettle Park West. So we're just really making the new comp plan amendment consistent with what STI would like to do out there with the city.
All right. Number 25, Resolution 60 for a certified survey map to combine a bunch of properties at 900 Ridge Street.
So this is part of the hospital project. There's multiple parcels of land out there, and a certified survey map, a CSM. Sometimes we use that to combine lots, and other times we use that to split lots. In this particular situation, we're going to combine that all into one parcel.
Sounds good. Number 26, Ordinance 11 of 2023 is relating to room tax.
Yeah, so this one here is the one where we, by council rules, we can waive the first reading, which we did, and go right to the second reading. And we really wanted to do that so we could start basically reallocating the funds according to the new policy in the second quarter. So a couple things happened on this one. We did raise our room tax from 6 to 8% previously, and this one here reallocates where that money goes. So some of it goes to the city, some of it goes to the chamber, and some of it goes to visitor services. So we did have an opportunity to increase the city's amount, and we kind of reached kind of the halfway point between the city and the chamber. So their revenue will go up as well as the city's. So for the chamber, that's really important because they've had extensive growth and participation with the local businesses here in Stoughton. More people at their events. There's an event Thursday night at the Mant Center for a business expo, which the vendors sold out. We've had record numbers at our lunch and learns and our business after fives, as well as our membership numbers are up. So they're going to use the additional money in order to hire a part-time assistant at the chamber. The city's portion of the money that will increase, we can put that in toward economic development, so that can help offset some of the costs that we use for our consultants.
Okay. And then item number 27, Resolution 61 of 2023, approving Stoughton Merchants Class B beer license.
Yeah, so Stoughton Merchants is also referred to as a home talent, and they played out at Norse Park, and every year they, as part of their fundraising, they like to sell beer, as well as they have great burgers out there as well. So sometimes I'll walk over there and watch a ball game and catch a bite to eat, and never had any issues out there. Some great things are happening out at the ballpark. There's new dugouts that were recently installed. As we speak, they're in the process of putting new dirt into the infield to improve the conditions and safety out there. So the park's going to look a little bit different. We're also going to be updating some park equipment at some point here in the near future. So we continue to invest in our parks because that's where people like to go.
And speaking of the Merchants baseball team, we're actually planning on covering some of those games this summer. So you can watch for that on WSTO also. And then item number 28, Resolution 62, was relating to a Class B liquor and beer license for a new restaurant in downtown.
Yeah, so the restaurant formerly known as Laz's, just past the fire station, we hope soon will be under new ownership. And the new owner has indicated that he'd like to continue to serve alcohol, but it's going to be more of a fine dining to try to fill a niche. Partially that was lost with the Big Sky transitioning into the Dairyland dessert bar. So we're excited that the prospect of having another restaurant opening in Stoughton again.
Sounds awesome. And then the last item on the agenda was item number 29, Resolution 63, to amend the 2023 adopted budget to provide ARPA funds for the Stoughton Community Foundation.
Yeah, so last week we had a committee of the whole meeting, which I believe was televised. Mm-hmm. And so you can watch the meeting. And one of the things the city council decided to do is to approve $100,000 to the Stoughton Area Community Foundation and have them help partner with us to help distribute the funds to the nonprofits. They have a process to do that, and they have a board and people in place to execute that process. And they can, track for us where that money went, so we can make sure we meet all the federal reporting requirements. So we think it's a great opportunity for them to help some of the nonprofits in the community, and it helps us to distribute the money in a fair way, impartial way, and kind of takes that workload off our plate. There's some other recommendations that came out of that committee of the whole meeting that you'll probably hear about at the next finance committee meeting, which are also televised now, and then eventually will be up for consideration at the city council meetings.
All right, and then we just had an adjournment, and that was all we had on that meeting.
Yeah, so it was a busy night. I wanted to thank all the people that came out that spoke on the quick trip proposal. They did an incredible amount of work to prepare for the meeting, and then once they came there, they realized that that proposal had been withdrawn, but they still wanted to have the opportunity to show the fine work that they did. And I also want to thank our planning department. We had numerous emails that came in that we had to continually update for the city council. So if we were to have a deliberation, they would have all the information they needed to make an educated decision.
Sounds good. And then we will be back next week after the reorganizational meeting to talk about committee changes and that kind of stuff. So we'll see you next week right here on Council Catch Up.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.